Welcome, my friends. This is Maniacal Incorporated, and after many decades, Morgan Le Fay has unified the kingdoms of Newfoundland and Labrador and reformed the Fog Song faith. Now she sets her sights on an empire stretching as far as the borders of Detroit. Most likely, the achievement of that goal will have to be left to the next generation, however. Morgan is pushing on in years, and the succession is not exactly stable at the moment. The current heir is her son Lance, who has taken ever more comfort in alcohol since the death of his wife. He saw a sign that said, "Drink Canada dry," so he did. Also in the running to succeed Morgan is her grandson, Cecil, the son of Lillian, who was killed in the conquest of Labrador. He hasn't inherited his mother's robust trait, instead getting just the fit trait. He does have some good martial, however, which would be required for the conquest that lay ahead. And there are also a number of other interesting candidates, and so to secure control over who will succeed, we're going to have to implement Tannistry elective, good old Tannistry elective. However, at the moment, Morgan does not have the prestige to do so, so that is going to mean that we will need to conduct some raids. First, we need to take a look at our court, which continues to grow as our kingdom does, and we have a lot of figures appointed already. But one person that we don't have appointed is a court groundhog keeper. Folklore tells us that interpreting the behavior of captive groundhogs can predict the weather. The court groundhog keeper cares for these prognosticating creatures throughout the year. And to appoint a court groundhog keeper, we need to completely control one county of the traditional groundhog locales. These are located predominantly around the east coast. There's a few further in, and this is the one that we control in Ferillion, which we took just to the north of Tiaramara. Now, considering that Court Groundhog Keeper will give stewardship per level of fame to the liege, and we're currently over our domain limit, I'm going to appoint our daughter Evangeline. Recently widowed Lance, who is the current heir, I'm going to secure a new marriage for him to the daughter of the ruler of Ottawa, the Duchy of Ottawa, so that'll bring in a small alliance. Now we need to get moving and get some prestige and some money together, but before that we have a bit of a political problem. Here is one of our vassals, and on the death of their mother, they will inherit the neighbouring duchy, the high chiefdom, which will drag them out of our domain. So, to solve that issue, what we're going to do is welcome her mother into our domain. Our enemy have called in their allies, but I don't think it's going to be enough to do anything. We didn't even manage to siege down their capital. Morgan continues down the learning lifestyle route. I've switched her over to medicine focus for the small health boost, and for now I'm going to continue down scholar and take scholarly circles instead of going for the fitness expert trait. And I stood down the armies and had to re-raise them again rapidly. When we conquered this region, it was at war with Fairmont, so we are now at war with Fairmont. We also have quite a hefty amount of converting to do. Only a few scattered regions have accepted the new zero sugar fog song. Most are staying with the old formula, and of course we have a hefty Ursuline presence here. So we're going to have to drop our court chaplain into Bonavista. We hit Fairmont's army just before we managed to siege down their capital, so that will bring that war to an end. And instead of standing down the armies from where they are, I might as well put them to raiding and begin moving them down the St. Lawrence River. There has been a tremendous heap of anarchy in this region. The tycoonship of Upper Quebec was formed by adventurers. They're fairly weak, and there are some substantial holdings around here. The main target, however, is the Kingdom of Hudsonia. We can come down the upper St. Lawrence River and strike along the coast, or along the riverbank. We can also go down the Hudson River and head as far as Ulster. Our forces pass through the capital of the Tycoonship, which unfortunately was raided down before us. There are some very valuable regions left behind, however. And with the last of the Tycoon's remaining territories raided, it's time to head down the Hudson. For the size and wealth of the Kingdom of Hudsonia, Queen Barbara Vanderbronx doesn't have much of an army, so we will be able to clear up completely on both sides of the Hudson, and probably head home with what we've gathered after that, and maybe leave a descent down in this direction until later. While our son Lance is on the Hudson raiding down everything that he can see, his wife Essa, who has given him a child, is plotting to kill our son-in-law, Cecil. Let the traitor be known. This will give her a critical amount of stress. So she has become irritable, which calms us down greatly. Duke Neil, our spymaster, has actually just had a major victory over Shushen, one of our major vassals, and he wishes to come to the court to pay homage. Show him in at once. So he comes bearing gifts. We gain prestige. He knows that we need prestige. That's the entire reason that we're carrying out these current raids. He gives us prestige and money. Now, I thought those armies were actually coming to attack me, as we are currently sieging down the capital of Hudsonia. We'll let them part in their different directions. And actually, it's an army representing the opposite side of the Hudson, which I was planning to head across and attack, but to make sure that we have as much room for gold and prestige as possible, we might leave it off. Now, the Queen of Hudsonia has 207 gold, and we have just captured her husband. She will not, under any circumstances, pay money for him, though. I mean, dude, if she's going to treat you like that, you might as well just leave her. I have no choice but to accept your conditions for my release. It's for the best, man. She's turned the wains against you. Now, we're going to have to give him a court position, and I think it would be absolutely fantastic to have the King of Hudsonia as our cupbearer. And down into Ulster we go, and this is most likely the end of our raids. We could push down into Gotham, but they have a couple of hundred troops, maybe 1,000 troops on us, so it wouldn't be a great idea. I just spotted this rather interesting looking coat of arms for the Morales family near Brooklyn. And after all his many years of service, he's even part of one of the armies, but our acclaimed knight, Cecil, has become infirm and is no longer our personal bodyguard. Maybe that's another job for the King of Hudsonia. Now, I decided to do a cheeky bit of a raid across to these two regions, and it looks like the army that was blockading here, we've maybe angered them a small bit. Now, we should be able to defeat them, but hopefully they're not going to knock too much carrying space off of us. And that was a pretty hefty defeat for them. We've killed one of their knights, and we have seized their war banner. It's a large wall ornament. I don't think I'm going to have any place for it. We're going to take it. It'll make a fine addition to our collection. So we have two of our own banners, our house banner and dynasty banner. We also took the beaten dynasty banner, which is hanging up at the moment. That's giving us 4 court grandeur. This one, however, will give us an extra knight, a small bit of court grandeur, and advantage in forest. Do you know what? For the extra knight, I'm going to take it. I should have said for the extra screecher, and I would like to invite screechers at the moment because we are kind of scraping at the bottom of the barrel, no offense, Cecil. But that's going to cost prestige, and I need to keep all of that until we get Tannistry in place. Our armies have arrived home, bringing with them the Quebec flu, and we've also managed to get a learning lifestyle perk. So we'll start there. We're down to sanctioned loopholes for buy claims. Don't really need it, but we're going to go for that scholar trait. Next, we will deal with the succession, and we will implement Tannistry elective. At the moment, most of our vassals are backing Greg for the succession. The only problem there is that Greg is Old Fogsong and is zealous. However, if we try and demand conversion, 9% acceptance, but we have a family hook that we are going to use to get him to convert. If he converts, I'm going to support him for the succession. If not, it's going to either be his twin sister Morgan, but most likely Cecil. Next is what we needed all of that money for, to found a holy order. There can never be too many warriors dedicated to defending the true faith. I will honour twins Fingol and Glooscap by giving those who would serve a home and arms. So I've set the barony to here in Sydney, which is part of the Fogsong faith, and is now home to the Children of the Moving Tide, led by Grandmaster Whelan. Now, it's not all good news. Greg has refused conversion. Just as he becomes our new player heir, we're going to have to do something about that. But it's quite appropriate timing that just as we establish a holy order in Sydney, we also finish the creation of the Grand Temple dedicated to Brother Jack. Truly an awe-inspiring monument. So there, for now, goes our vote for Cecil. Now, with all that taken care of, I'd planned to attack Fremont, which has been causing us a bit of problems. However, the Quebec flu has broken out in that region, and it's actually hit part of our kingdom and is moving northwards. It hasn't caused much damage at the moment. And finally, with the money left over from the recent raid, I'm going to sponsor a building in the Sacred Fishery, the headquarters of our faith. It would be helpful to all Fogsinger if I use my wealth to improve our holy see. So the Fisher King, Archibald, is absolutely delighted. We have a number of really interesting buildings that we could sponsor. We could sponsor a missionary school, which would give court chaplains 10% convert faith in county. The one that I'm going to go for now, however, seems though we just set it up, is the Holy Order headquarters, which will give Order members 2 martial and 2 prowess and domicile piety of plus 0.1 per month. Now, going back to the succession, if he is to succeed as the new king of Newfoundland and Labrador, it's going to be difficult, but we're going to need to try and convert Cecil to witchcraft. Or at least I thought it was going to be difficult, but we have managed to convert Cecil to witchcraftery on our first attempt. Welcome to our communion, brother. And that was a very important success because that now allows us to found a witch coven. We have 4 adult members of House NaGeira who are witches. Our sons and daughters will be raised to embrace their powers and the will of the little fellas. The Witches' Coven means that all children of House NaGeira who are educated by a witch will become a witch, and Morgan is educating 2 of her grandchildren. And to make sure that she has a couple of years left to see out those educations, I'm going to have her adopt as her patron god the 3 women in white. This will give her a +1 learning, a medium health boost, and life expectancy of 10 years more. Life expectancy of 10 years wouldn't be great. Now that all of that is sorted, in what time is left to Morgan, she is going to begin pushing down the St. Lawrence River towards Hudsonia. I was going to take Fremont, but it is currently suffering from the Quebec flu. So we will restart our conquest on this small island, Ile de Madeleine, off the coast of Newfoundland and Tierra. I was hoping that we'd be able to vassalize them, but because they are a county, we will conquer the county. And it's a good thing that we got that holy order together, and this is going to be a bit of a problem. The Countess has raised the Ursuline Knights. 2 can play at that game. In the midst of all the excitement, our counsellor, Kelly O'Leary, has drank himself to death. Fair play to him. He was a solid steward. And we're not looking at any great replacements at the moment. What I could do is reassign Chiefess Shushan, and then appoint Fanny O'Shamus as our new Chancellor. And the very first thing that Kelly's daughter does on taking over her father's county is creates a faction against us. 8,200 troops with a disembarkation penalty against 3,000. Is it enough? I'm not going to lie, the NaGeira family is cursed with fairly low stats across the board, but Morgan has put together a fairly solid learning trait and now picks up the Scholar perk. And without either the Holy Order or the Allies showing up, we have managed to take the island. And while we were taking that island, our vassal in long range decided to take Fremont, which is great, but they now have a very large empire. Thankfully, they don't as yet have the troops to back it up. And just as we raise our forces to go on a raid and get some more money together, there is a constant need for money. The deposed ruler of Ile de Madeleine has established an adventurers guild with the aim of retaking the island. Well, we have in our custody her daughter, who we are currently in the process of recruiting to our court, so that we can set her up at a later point in time as a puppet ruler of the island. Ha! The fool has spirit. Our court poet Thomasina has given tremendous service to the court, and considering her advanced age and the fact that she's dying or in poor health, it's maybe not a great idea to give her 107 gold to go on an adventure. On the other hand, Amanda wants 53 quid to make a brooch. We arrive back in Hudsonia amidst some severe upheaval, bringing with us, no doubt, letters for the Queen from her husband. Our grandson Bernard comes to us complaining about soup. The two options that we have will give us a small health boost and a -20 to our courtly vassal opinion, but this one will give us monthly piety if we start a healthy and modest diet. We have been challenged to a game of blackjack by High Chief William of Up North, the father of Nicole Griffin, who fell overboard protecting Morgan's cup, one of our relics, the wife of our son, Lance O'Morgan. We will accept this game of blackjack. The greatest of games. No skulking around, no lying, just a fair game of wits. We have 40-something learning, so if we keep getting learning challenges, I would imagine we will hammer this man into the ground. You know, ponders my opponent pointedly, blackjack is supposed to be about having fun, not just winning at any cost. Sir, are you sure you've played blackjack before? With a smug smile, Morgan places her final counter on the blackjack board. It is a devastating victory. Good game. Amanda has finished the brooch, gives us a small bit of prestige and attraction opinion. It's grand. Our forces have pushed all the ways down to just short of Niagara Falls, and we could push into Allegheny, but Tycoon David has a fairly substantial army, and I would like to instead sail down into Lake Erie and start to hit some of the regions here around Detroit. Their president is without an army, but I think what we're going to do instead is head back home. Because with the money that we've put together, we can now begin to promote a legend, and considering that Morgan reformed the Fog Song faith, I'm going to go for the consolidation of Sea Sprayer. Organized religion was set to destroy the old ways, but under the wise and pious guidance of Queen Morgan, the Grove of Fog Song's faith was brought into a new age, the legends now codified in a holy book, and a structured priestly class established, Brother Jack's will be done. I've changed some of the things that my courtiers are working on. My antiquarian, I have put him exhibiting illustrious artifacts, which gives the stewardship bonus that gets rid of that domain holdings penalty I was having. And the court chronicler has been put extolling the domestic legend, but it's quite expensive to do that, so I don't have the court poet doing the same as yet, but I'm pretty confident that we have now in place the foundation needed to push forward for the conquest of the Empire of Canada. We have a witches' coven, we have a holy order, and most importantly, we have stabilized the succession. There is a tremendous amount of conquest ahead of us yet, so thank you for joining me on this episode, and I hope you will join me on the next one, Equipped for War.